Here's another episode of what it's like to go to war. And on this one, I want to talk about artillery or indirect fire. It's actually the sense of helplessness that a warrior goes through when they're under mortar, rocket, or artillery fire. Most of the time, a combat trained warrior on a battlefield with a rifle in your hands and the enemy in front of you, you feel like there's at least a degree of personal ability to respond and react to what's happening around you. I can think back to the firefights that I was in when it was direct fire, me against the enemy. Whoever was first on the trigger was going to live. And I at least felt like I had a little bit of ability to control the circumstances that were going on around me when it's direct fire. But indirect fire, on the other hand, is a whole nother animal. So the first time that I came regularly under indirect fire was in Somalia. And in fact, it was a nightly occurrence. You could almost set your watch to it. The Somali warlords used to recruit fighters and give them a drug, a local drug from a plant root that's called khat, K-H-A-T. And this plant root acts a lot like cocaine. They would hand the drug out about sundown, and it would take about 30 minutes for the drug to build up the full, dose for somebody who's taking it. And sure enough, about 30 minutes after sundown, we would come under indirect fire from mortars all over the city of Somalia. This happened almost every night. I don't remember a night where we weren't getting mortared, and we weren't getting mortared at almost the exact same time. And it was a regular occurrence. Now, most of the mortars were wildly off target and they didn't land close to us, but there's a psychological component that goes to mortars because you really can't hear where they're coming from. And this is especially true with heavy artillery and rockets. There's no way that you'll be able to know what direction they're coming from or when they were launched. All you can hear is right immediately before they hit the ground, which means you hear that round screaming in and you know it's going to land somewhere. You just don't know if it's going to land next to you, if it's going to land on top of you, or if it's going to land a long distance away from you. I spent several months in Somalia, and every night during that entire time there, we came under mortar attack. Fast forward, and in 2003, I'm in Afghanistan early in the global war on terrorism and came under rocket attacks. I kept count more than 100 different rocket attacks in the 9 months that I spent in that country just on one deployment alone. Some of those rockets landed really close. Some of those rockets landed a long way away. And I was more emotionally and tactically prepared for the rocket attacks in Afghanistan because of what I'd been through in Somalia. But both Somalia and Afghanistan, I saw the exact same thing, and it happens to warriors every time they're under indirect fire. And it is this sense of helplessness. In fact, for some guys, it is far more traumatic to be under indirect fire, even 1 or 2 rounds, than it is to be in a very intense direct fire engagement, because in indirect fire, you have no control over where that round is going to land, and you don't know if it's going to land on top of you. You don't know if it's going to land on the buddy next to you. You don't know if it's going to land way away from you. And the unknown can be terrifying for warriors in combat. One of the reasons I'm doing this video for you today is to prepare you if you're ever under indirect fire. Emotionally, this is a much different experience in combat than the very intense direct fire engagements in combat. And emotionally, there's really not any way to help you get under control other than to have this rock solid belief, like I did, in a God who controls what happens next. And maybe he's going to allow the next mortar round or rocket attack to land directly on top of me and blow me and everybody around me to pieces. Or maybe I'll walk away without a scratch. I have no control over that, and only God decides what happens next. Having that kind of view, that God is in control, gave me the ability to be calm in the middle of mortar attacks in Somalia, many rocket attacks in Afghanistan, when some of my buddies were totally freaking out around me. So the reason for this video is to just prepare you for the emotional turmoil that indirect fire causes, because you can't hear where it's coming from. You know it's coming in, and you have just a couple of seconds of notice, and you have no idea where it's going to land. And the only thing that you can do is to prepare yourself. And I mean prepare yourself emotionally, and I also believe spiritually. So if you're going to be ready for the next combat engagement, part of what it's like to go to war is to be prepared for this rocket, mortar, artillery fire that you might find yourself under. Thanks for watching. See you next time.